My relationship with my parents had always been jagged, a road paved with eggshells. I learned early to measure my words, to brace for silence stretched thin as wire. They never hit me, never packed a suitcase and set it on the porch, but they used quiet like a blade and favoritism like a leash. I told myself it was survivable, tolerable. Then I had my son Arlo, and the fog burned off. Suddenly, I could see it all. How my mother's guilt came wrapped as concern. How my father's affection came in rations earned through obedience. I promised myself Arlo wouldn't be pulled into that gravity. I kept my parents at a safe, polite distance. Holiday texts, photos on birthdays, nothing deeper. I told them that until I saw real change, they would not have access to my child. Then the wiring in our building failed, and the fire marshal red-tagged the place. Insurance would cover a hotel, but the family housing list was clogged tight. We were between roofs, me and Arlo, floating. My mother called the next morning. "Bring Arlo here," she said. "We've got room." I hesitated. She added, "Just a few days. We'll treat him like our own." In the background, my dad made a noise that was almost a grunt, almost agreement. "Until you get back on your feet." Arlo was 7 bookish, gentle with noise, fiercely loyal to peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I packed a week's worth of groceries, printed his allergies in huge letters, and kissed his forehead before I left. That night, I did not sleep. Something twisted inside me, and I couldn't name it. By day 3, Arlo sounded smaller on the phone. "What'd you eat?" I asked lightly. He paused. "Some crackers," he said. "That's it?" "Papa says lunch is for family, and I'm just visiting." The phone went slippery in my hand. I drove through the night. Their house smelled like sausage and pancakes when I walked in. My father sat halfway through a stack. My mother sipped coffee, eyes on a magazine. At the far end of the table, Arlo had an empty plate and a careful posture, as if shrinking made him safer. "Where's his food?" I asked. "He already ate," my mother said without looking up. "No, I didn't," Arlo whispered. My father snorted. "He had crackers yesterday. He's not starving." I looked at my son pale, tired, learning to be invisible. I turned to my mother. "Why did you tell him he isn't family?" She rolled her eyes. "Because he's not. He's your kid. We didn't sign up to raise him." "He's 7, I said, and my voice cracked. "You think withholding food from a child is normal?" My father stood like a verdict. "No one's punishing him, but he's not entitled to anything. Not like Sophie's kids. They're here every week." There it was Sophie, my sister, the perpetual favorite, whose twins had full bedrooms here with monogrammed bedding. My son, meanwhile, was being starved like an unwelcome stray. I didn't yell, I didn't argue. I walked to Arlo, lifted his backpack onto his shoulder, and said quietly, "We're leaving." My mother called after me, "You're making a scene over snacks." I did not answer. I did not say goodbye. We went to a diner. Arlo ordered pancakes and couldn't finish. "My stomach hurts," he murmured, apologetic. That broke me more than anything. Back at the hotel, he went quiet when I tried to talk about it. He didn't understand why they treated him like that. How do you explain to a child that some people love the picture of family more than the messy, hungry reality of it? That night, I made a list at the tiny desk. Things my parents loved: Sophie's attention, their social reputation, the antique porcelain they polished like a shrine. And one last thing, the one that powered the whole machine: my silence. That was the line that changed shape in my head. My silence had always been their fuel, so I decided to starve them of it. I started with small conversations. Not online, not for spectacle. I told Aunt Ruth, who always wondered why Arlo and I rarely came to holiday dinners. I told my cousin Daniel, who thought my parents were neighborhood saints. I told Sophie, who had no idea what happened. I left Arlo with them for 2 days. I said the same way each time. They told him he wasn't family and barely fed him. Every person who heard that sentence went quiet. Then the currents shifted. Sophie canceled her kid's next visit. Aunt Ruth told her church friends. Daniel offered playdates for Arlo. Invitations stopped landing in my parents' mailbox. Compliments dried up. 3 days later, my mother called, her bright voice split at the edges. "Why is everyone ignoring us?" I didn't answer. My father left a voicemail. "You're ruining our name over what? Some crackers." I saved the message, played it twice, then deleted it. They were starving now, not for food, but for praise, and the make-believe that they were good people, and I wasn't done. The calls kept coming, letters, voicemails that pivoted between wounded and menacing. "You're punishing us for a misunderstanding," my mother said. With a tremor she must have thought sounded maternal. My father followed. "If you're going to smear us, at least let us explain our side." Their side? They told a 7-year-old he wasn't family and rationed him like a stray cat. There is no side to that. They tried to paint me as hysterical, overly sensitive, the perennial troublemaker old labels hauled out of storage. But this time the paint wouldn't stick. Not after I gave the truth, plain and steady, to the exact people whose admiration my parents craved. I could have stopped there. But I remembered something small and sticky from when I was 15. My mother made me skip my best friend's birthday to help polish her teacups before her club arrived. "Image is everything," she'd said. "If we don't look put together, we're nothing." So I went after the image. Every summer, my parents hosted a community fundraiser for the local firefighters in their backyard. My father flipped burgers as if he were king of the cul-de-sac. My mother floated with lemonade and compliments. I didn't attend. I did, however, RSVP in the name of someone they hadn't seen in years. Mrs. Darlene Whitcomb, my fourth-grade teacher. She was soft-voiced, social media active, and had once told me in a whisper, "You're a thoughtful girl, even if your parents seem more invested in appearances than in you." A week before the event, I called her. I spoke without heat. I left Arlo there when our building was condemned. They told him he wasn't family. They didn't feed him. Mrs. Whitcomb's breath hitched. "What kind of people?" "The kind who throw charity barbecues while starving a child in their house," I said. She showed up to the fundraiser in a t-shirt that read, "Family feeds, even when it's hard." When my mother greeted her, Mrs. Whitcomb said brightly, "So sorry I didn't bring my grandson. I assumed children were only welcome if they're blood, or does that still not count in this house?" Conversations paused. Heads turned. My mother flushed. My father tried to laugh. "Oh, Darlene, still a firecracker." She wasn't alone. 2 neighbors I'd spoken to made casual comments later, loud enough to carry. It wasn't sabotage, it was sunlight. I didn't have to ruin them, I just opened the blinds. My father called after, voice rattled for the first time. "Why are you turning people against us? We're your parents." "No," I said. "You're Sophie's parents. You made that clear." My mother left one last message that week. No scolding, just tears. I made a mistake. I didn't think this would spread. I didn't think people would stop inviting us. It wasn't an apology. It was grief for the mask she could no longer sell. I still hadn't touched what they loved most. Not Sophie, not each other. The house. The colonial my father inherited, bragged about to every neighbor, every distant cousin, who showed up once a decade. Perfect lawn, brick chimney, heirloom roses clipped into obedient shapes. "This house will stay in the family forever," they like to say. Funny, there were no birthdays there anymore, no grandkids in the yard, no framed photos of Arlo on the mantel, just silence, and the ghosts they pretended weren't theirs. I sent them a package. Inside, a box of photos, childhood pictures with their faces carefully cropped out. Arlo's first day of school, me and Arlo at the zoo, duplicates on thick glossy paper. On top, a letter in my hand. "This is your family now, in pictures only. Look as long as you like, that's as close as you'll ever get. You fed your pride more than my child. You called him a visitor, so now you'll be strangers. You said the house would stay in the family forever. The family left the house. It's just a shell." They didn't reply. A week later, Sophie called. She'd stopped by and found the curtains drawn, the porch unswept, the yard slipping out of its perfect lines. "They barely speak," she said. "Mom keeps trying to host, but no one comes." "Good," I said. "Then they know something of what Arlo felt in those 2 days." They were raised differently, she offered gently, as if she were trying on the defense to see if it fit. So was I said, but I don't starve kids and call it discipline. Time moved. Arlo started laughing again, asking questions like small bird calls. Do owls get hungry when it rains? Do grandmas always forget snacks? One afternoon, he asked, Can we drive by their house? Why? I asked. I just want to see it. We parked across the street. The lawn had gone shaggy. The porch light flickered a tired yellow. A single curtain lifted and fell. No one came out. Does anyone live there? Arlo asked. Not really, I said. We sat quietly. He leaned his head against my shoulder. I'm not hungry anymore, he whispered. I know, I said, kissing his hair. Neither am I.